My name is Timothy Phelps, and I'm a member of the Westboro Baptist Church in Topeka, Kansas. And I also serve as one of their preachers.
So obviously your church is quite infamous for its pickets and its protests. And I was wondering, is that something that you still do today?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Every day. We maintain a calendar that is filled to the brim with local and distant pickets.
So is that something that every member of your church has to do as part of the church, or is it something that they do if they can find the time to fit it in, around work and school?
Because if you want to do it, you're going to find a time to do it. To an obsessive degree, we pick it because that's what we love to do. We pick it and we preach and we talk and we help each other.
So obviously I've done some background research and I read that you had 10 kids, right?
I have 10 children, yes.
So hypothetically, out of those 10, and I think 3 have left, but if one of your remaining children were to come up to you and say that they want to leave the church, is that something you'd be okay with? Would you be happy for them to do that? Obviously it'll be hard as they are leaving the church, but ultimately, would you be happy for them to do that?
No? No, I would not be happy because that would be the equivalent of me asking you is if you had a child and that child went out and committed suicide, would you be happy for that child?
But don't you think that's quite a harsh contrast considering losing someone to suicide and someone getting up and leaving an organization are two completely different things? Losing someone to suicide is a harrowing loss of life and loss of a loved one.
And that's what I feel right there, what you just described.
But don't you think that's almost really insensitive considering that your kids are all alive and healthy and successful, and all it would take for you to be able to get in contact with them is to reach out to them, whereas there are parents and family members who can no longer talk to their loved ones because of suicide?
No, what do we have in common? But Jesus Christ specifically, when they said, yo, Jesus, your mother and your brethren are outside. They want to talk to you. He said, no, my mother and my brethren are right here in this room. These are my mother and my brethren. If you're going to be kicking me to the curb because of your relatives, your wife or your husband or your children or your parents, you're not worthy of me. So now, if Jesus Christ says that, am I supposed to say, well, screw you, buddy? I like my kids.
They are your living family that you're equating to being dead because they don't somehow fit into your ideology. I don't understand how someone can be so detached from love and empathy.
You and 99.9999% of humanity do that. So it's not like I'm calling you out. You put God over here and you put someone who you really live with every day and you love them and they make you happy and all of that. You are going to go over to those people. But God Almighty said about those people, cease from man whose breath is in his nostrils. For what is going to become of them in the latter day? The answer, of course, is nothing, because humans compared to God are worth zero, including us, worth zero. Humans compared to other humans, there's value. But compared to God, you don't put those up next to each other like that's a fair fight. Is those kids want me to accept what they want to do? To hell with God. That's what they want. And that's not going to happen.
But can you explain to me why you feel as though you're unable to, or that it is impossible for you to just let people live their lives?
What the fags want. See how it's affecting you. They want to prosecute people who say that what they do is a sin, just like they did Lot in Sodom.
Well, that just feels slightly aggressive and unnecessary, really.
Read the Bible, Aaron. Your name's Aaron. Do you read the freaking Bible? You will see a perfect description of the world today. A perfect, and I'm not talking about hyperbole. I'm talking about governments require you not to call sodomy a sin, not to call adultery a sin, not to call fornication a sin. They will put your scabby side in jail, and it won't be long, and it will be death penalty stuff. Now, that's the reality, whether you want to play denial or not. 25, 30 years ago, you wouldn't even have heard of somebody being so bold as to say it's okay to be gay. But what audacity to tell us that we have to ignore the Bible because you want to. What audacity.
I would just like to point out I never actually brought up the matter of sexuality. And while we're on it, I would like to point out that I do find your usage of that slur incredibly inappropriate and just unnecessary.
Fag is not a slur. I don't care how other people use it. Fag is not a slur.
But you are aware you are using it as a slur, regardless of how you think you're using it. The way you are using it in the context which you're using it in is, in fact, a slur.
Here's what will happen to you in time, in temporal time. I'm telling you, as we sit here and look at each other, you're going to lose what you hold dear because he's going to take it from you.
It appears that Mr. Phelps has just left the call, so I guess that's where we call that interview. I was hoping to leave on a lighter note, but I guess not. So all that's left to say is thank you for watching and be good people.